welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot and a little video series where I'm looking at all the decks in my collection, categorized by whether I did or didn't use them at all in 2021, and just showing you my collection and having to think about if there's anything that needs to move on. So just because I haven't used it this year doesn't mean it needs to go. So let's have a look at what I didn't take out of its box this year. So one of the first that came to hand is the Game of Thrones Tarot. Such a beautifully presented box set. This is not one I will be moving on. It's the Game of Thrones Tarot. I do actually want to do a full review of this deck, a proper review of it. I have read with it. Not this year, obviously, but inevitably, because of the subject matter, I mean, if you've read the books or watched the series, it's really dark. The readings came out really dark. Accurate, actually, but dark. So it's not a deck I'm drawn to use for reading, but I love Game of Thrones. I have a lot of connection to Game of Thrones. A lot of it was filmed near where I live, and people I know were in it, and so on. So yeah, it's this is not a deck I'm going to get rid of, even though I might never read with it again. So what else did I not use? The Shimmering Tarot by Cilla Conway. And I know there'll be gasps of horror from some of the people watching this to say that I didn't read with the Shimmering Tarot. Yes, so this was a 2020, a new deck in 2020, and it's so lovely. I mean, it's beautifully made. And the art is maybe not my usual preferred style. It's definitely more abstract and dreamy and kind of channeled and spiritual than what I would normally work with. And it's one that I remember when I got it. It's certain cards, you know, my initial thoughts are like, I don't get that. I don't really see what's going on there. But then when you sit with it for a while, you know, something comes through. So it's not the type of deck that I normally work with. I think it's more for self-reflection than anything else. This is my favorite card in the deck. Beautiful Empress, breastfeeding, so gorgeous. But yes, it's a deck that I have thought about moving on because I haven't really used it. But I think it needs a little bit more of a chance from me. And if I were to ever start doing that type of, like I tend not to do that type of reading at the moment very often, where, you know, I'm just sort of pulling a card and maybe contemplating at bedtime or journaling about it. I haven't been doing that very much this year, but if I were to start, this would be the perfect deck to do that with. So I'm going to hang on to it for now. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. It's just, it hasn't been getting used. Another deck that hasn't been getting used, you might recognize the bag, because I'm always very proud of this bag when I take it out because it matches the deck so perfectly. Yes, this is the Lightseers Tarot, one of my favorite tarot decks. Just for whatever reason, it didn't get pulled out this year at all. So yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it. If you recognize the green edges, this is the independent edition. And yeah, I have no intention of getting rid of the Lightseers Tarot. In fact, I was really surprised when I went back through my Instagram and my tarot journal for the year and realized that I hadn't taken it out of the bag for the purposes of reading at all. A deck I could easily move on is the Smithway Centennial Edition, although I might just hang on to it and at some point I might give it to somebody. I now have a blue box Blushing Fool Rider-Waite Smith. That's the version that I use to read with. This I only ever had as a study deck. I never read with this. I never enjoyed reading with this. Like I never shuffled it even. You can see it's still in order. I just had it as a study deck. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm kind of indifferent to it. It might I feel no big urge to get rid of it. It doesn't take up much space, but at the same time, it's not a deck that I'm ever going to read with. I just sort of have it for study purposes. And now I have the Blushing Fool. I don't think I need it so much. The PreRaphaelite Tarot. Oh, this is not just a deck I didn't use this year. This is a deck I've never used. I bought this in a shop back when shops just reopened after the lockdown last year. And I had a few problems with it. One of the problems I have with it is that the little guidebook only tells you the original inspiration paintings for a couple of the cards. And I spent hours and hours and hours looking through PreRaphaelite art on the internet, trying to find the source paintings for some of these cards. And the ones that I did find, I wrote into the guidebook. So, you know, for example, the Ace of Wands is based on, oh, so this is it here. The Ace of Wands is based on The Daydream by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. But that's not in this little booklet. Information like that, to me, when you're using inspiration from existing art, is important to know. And so I did that. I went through all of these cards, this half of the cards. I know what paintings they're based on. And the rest of the deck, I have no idea what paintings these are based on. And some of them may not be based on any painting. They may just be in the style of, like that one definitely is, but I couldn't find it. Or could I? Maybe I've mixed up the order that they're in. Because I had it sitting, no, Four of Cups. I did no find that one. Gather Ye Rosebuds by John William Waterhouse. I had planned to do, maybe what I'm going to do, this is what I should do. Film a video where I go through the deck, do a proper review of it, and explain the paintings that I've discovered for anybody who's interested, and then move it on, because I don't think I'm going to ever read with it, much as I really enjoy PreRaphaelite art. So that's in a make a video and move it on pile. Okay. Another tarot deck you might recognize the bag if you've been around for a while on my channel. This is the Triple Goddess Tarot. I really need to do a proper review of this because this is one I've had for a really long time and worked with a lot when I first got it. I haven't used it in it's not just that I haven't used it this year. I don't think I used it last year either, but because it was one of my early deck purchases, it's one of the decks that I know the best because, you know, when you only had 2 or 3, you use the ones you've got a lot more, don't you? So, this is the Triple Goddess Tarot. Jamie Elford wrote the little booklet, and it really could do with a longer book than the few pages you get in a little white book. I'm sure Jamie had tons more to say about this and the choices that were made in it. I can't remember the name of the artist without the little white book, so sorry about that. But yeah, that's staying. Another deck that I didn't use this year, and in fact have maybe never really used, is the Mythic Tarot. So this is a first edition of the Mythic Tarot. It's on this real thin papery, old school papery card. It came with like a hardback black book and a spread cloth in this plain black box. It was an eBay purchase. When I got this a couple of years ago, I hunted and hunted until I could get it. Like I was really obsessed about getting it and then never used it. Which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit to. But the art is beautiful. And I think I really wanted to find it because the new Mythic Tarot, the printing, I don't really like the newly done computer type art in the new version. So this is a lovely deck. And like I said, if you watch the Oracle video of the decks I didn't work with, I just haven't spent the time to get to know the Greek myths to work with this deck. I do know some of the stories from Greek mythology. I have read some of the guidebook that goes with this deck, but I just never really got into it properly because I got sort of sidetracked with other things and looking into Celtic mythology and my own sort of cultural background a bit more. But yeah, and maybe someday I will actually sit down and work with this properly. I'll find that maybe Greek mythology is not for me. I might sell this deck on. But for now, I'm going to hang on to it. So I have kept the box and the book and the reading cloth and everything, but they were just bulky, so they're well stored behind my couch. I was astonished when I looked through my year and I realised I hadn't used this deck, the Theuminous Tarot, because this is one of my favourite tarot decks. And again, it's like, how did I manage to get through a year without handling it, apart from, you know, maybe for VRs or hashtags, you know, on YouTube. I love this deck so much. I find the art incredibly powerful. I think Cedar McLeod is a bit of a genius, really. I think the way they have reinterpreted the images, the way they've reinterpreted the story of each card in a really relatable way, for anyone to use. Like they're sort of, especially 1 to 10 of the minor arcana, I think are excellent. I think the renaming of the suits worked brilliantly well. The measures in the courts I don't find quite as relatable, but I do love. I think the art style is gorgeous. I mean, I need to do a proper full video on this deck, don't I? With all my thoughts. But there's a new version out now that has matte kind of, what do they call that? The cardstock that's kind of got a little hatched effect on it. Linen cardstock. The latest printing that's available. But this is a great deck. I love it. Never going anywhere. Okay, another deck I didn't use at all. The Niccoletti Tarot. I did a full review of this deck a good long while ago. It must have been last year, because I didn't use it this year. I like Niccoletti's art. I was familiar with it before purchasing the deck, from other things, like little art postcards and stuff, with her art on it that I'd picked up long before I got back into tarot. I actually have this, like a bigger greeting card kind of that I had framed for a while, again long before the tarot deck ever came under my awareness. So I like Niccoletti's art, which is why I won't get rid of this. This is a pretty dark deck to read with as well, in terms of, you know, the way it interprets the messages. It's quite shadowy, but very pretty. And again, I don't know if it'll be a forever deck in my collection, but yeah, I didn't use it this year. I don't feel particularly drawn to use it. It's a sort of, people talk about it being an inner child deck, but it's like the nightmarish side of, you know, the fears of childhood, I guess. The other side of that is this, the Anne of Green Gables Tarot, which I got this year. I think I got it this year. And I haven't read with. I did a big deep dive video into this when I got it, where I went through the deck and talked about all the different, like, what scene is this from the story, and how I connected with, because Anne of Green Gables is a huge part of my childhood. It's like those novels, and particularly the first one and the TV adaptation with Megan Follows playing Anne. Those are huge formative parts of my childhood. So I completely adore this cute little deck. It is by A Disordered Mind Zines, which is an Instagram account at A Disordered Mind Zines. The actual name of the creator, I have no idea. This is just such a cute deck, and I feel like it has a very specific place in my heart and in my collection that is to do with inner child work, if ever I were to do such a thing, which I have not done yet. And maybe I just need to take it out and do some regular reading with it and stop waiting for a special occasion, because I haven't used it at all this year. And we're back to the Dark Mansion Tarot. I just don't know about this deck. I keep thinking I'm going to sell it, because I bought it in total FOMO when it came out. I ordered it, I saw it on Simon's channel on the Hermit's Cave. I just thought, oh, I have to have that. Everybody was getting it. I love the black edges. I love that back design. Like, aesthetically, I do really like this deck. And it was very stiff and hard to work with at first, but I have used it enough that the cards have kind of softened up a wee bit and they're a bit bendier than they were. And I think I'm not using it. It's very cartoonish. I don't really know when I never really feel drawn to wanting to use it. And then I take it out and I look through it and I go, oh wow, this art is so cute and I really like it. Like, I love the detail and the intricacy of the images, but I don't use it. And I know some people adore this deck and use it loads. And the colours are great. And look at that Ace of Cups, it's lovely. I think I did a full review on this last year in 2020 when I did use it. I attempted to use it for the whole of October as a kind of Halloween-y deck, and I got bored really quickly and just stopped using it. And ever since then, I haven't used it since, and I keep thinking about selling it, but I haven't yet because look how pretty it is. And that's such a great Nine of Swords. So I don't know. I might put it in the, you know, Lisa Papez talks about her purgatory box. It's sort of been in my poor purgatory box for years, for a long time, kind of notionally without me formally having one. This is the Everyday Tarot. I don't use this. I don't like this deck very much. It's made by Bridget Esselmont, and the artist's name is not on the box. It's made by Biddy Tarot. And I got it because I had used so much free resources from Biddy Tarot online. I felt like I should support the company by actually buying something. I thought I would hang on to it because I was doing a course with Tom Benjamin, and he was talking about how when you use a lot of cards in a spread, small cards are really helpful. And this deck in particular has this great directionality. So say you were doing a 9-card spread, you can really see who's looking at who and what's going on, and you can fit 9 cards really easily down on the table because they're small. But I mean, I've done a 9-card spread with the Le Tarot Noir, which is the biggest tarot deck I own. You just need a bigger table. Yeah, it wasn't an expensive deck, but I think this is going in the maybe move on somewhere pile because yeah, I don't really like it. The Modern Witch Tarot. Is it true? Could it possibly be true that I didn't use this deck at all this year? One of my favorite decks of 2020 didn't even get out of the box in 2021. I find that hard to believe, but it must be true because I never journaled about it anywhere. It's not in my Instagram at all from the whole year. This is such a chunky deck. It fans like a dream. That's my favorite thing about this deck, that it fans so beautifully. I used this deck last year in 2020 when I had broken my hand. I had broken my hand here, and I was in plaster cast for a long time, and I couldn't shuffle. And this deck fanned so beautifully. I just used this the whole time. I would fan and pull a card with my left hand. And I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with this. I love the way the colours applied. I love the modern aesthetic. I love the way, I mean, these people are all like so fashionable. They're really, it's quite a young deck, although I didn't notice that initially when I first started working with it. It's a nice, diverse collection of women in this deck. Yeah, I love it. It's great. I can't believe I didn't use it at all this year. So that's going nowhere. Oh, and that is The Modern Witch Tarot is by Lisa Sterle. And it's published by Lemon 11. So that's a great one. Another one, I maybe don't need to take this out. I didn't use this, the Gaian Tarot limited edition. So it's these really big cards. And I also didn't use this, the Gaian Tarot, the Schiffer edition. I'll just show you a couple of the cards. So the Schiffer edition has these big blue borders. In a way, I could get rid of the Schiffer edition because I'm never going to read with this or use it as altar cards now. I used to use it as altar cards and read with the Llewellyn edition. Initially, I read with this because it was the only one I had. But now I have these big cards that are, I should show you. I mean, I've done a deep dive video into the Gaian Tarot, all 3 editions, which is also on my channel. But now I have these, which are, you know, bigger, even pictures of the art without the borders. I have no use for this, except the guidebook that came with this edition is in colour and is really nice. So I use the guidebook still to dip in and out of from the Schiffer edition. And the limited edition didn't come with a guidebook. And the Llewellyn edition guidebook, it has the exact same text as the Shipper edition, but it's just not as nice a physical book. So anyway, the Gain Tarot is my favourite deck. All versions are staying, and that's that. And then two other decks that I haven't used yet. The Spirit Keepers Tarot Revelation edition, which is still in order and still in the box, and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I just got it. Like, I mean, I literally just got it, so I haven't used that yet at all. And another one, I couldn't believe it. Got to the end of the year, I haven't used the Druidcraft. How is that possible? This is another one of those early deck purchases that I'd had for a really long time. And I used to read with it loads and loads and loads because I only had a couple of decks. And this was, you know, one that I read with a lot. Yeah, I really like the art style in this. Some of the cards have very strong associations of meanings for me because I read with it consistently for quite a long time. Yeah, I mean, there's a few things about this deck that I'm not super keen on, and I do think I should have got the bigger version. So this is the small box. If you're thinking about getting the Druidcraft Tarot, I would recommend getting the bigger box with the bigger guidebook, because the little guidebook that came with this doesn't really have the stories that are being referenced. Like, I recognize what story this is from Welsh mythology that's kind of in the background of this Five of Cups, but it's just by luck that I recognize that. So I think the longer guidebook would be really good to have. I'm assuming it covers some of that stuff in more detail. This is also trimmed, so don't be shocked if you buy the Druidcraft Tarot and it comes in with much bigger borders. It has a green border, and then it has these big white borders, and I trimmed them all off to create this by leaving the title and the green border at the bottom. It created a symmetrical back design. So there's lots of people have trimmed this deck in different ways, but I'm really happy with the mod on that deck. So yeah, this is, I mean, they're not perfectly all the same length, but who cares? I certainly don't. But that is all the tarot decks that I didn't work with this year, and really, out of them, the only one I really want to get rid of is the PreRaphaelite Tarot. Oh no, that's not true. I had the PreRaphaelite Tarot, the Everyday Tarot can go, and then probably hanging on to them for now, not sure in the long term. And Smithway Tarot, yeah, I mean, I sort of feel a bit indifferent to it. But the rest are all treasures that need to stay. What I'm moving towards as I'm going through these videos is that I need to stop buying decks for a while. Because I need to have some time to dive deep into the decks that I've got. Like, the depth of connection I have with the Druidcraft Tarot, I just don't have with any of the decks I've bought in maybe the last year or more, because I've bought so many. I just haven't had the time to use them and get to know them. I mean, I have enough decks now really to last me a lifetime. Now, I'm not going to say I'm never going to buy any more decks, or even that I'm going to use the term depth year, because I know as soon as I tell myself I can't buy any more decks, that'll backfire. So what I'm instead going to do is just, focus more on wish listing things that I know I want to get that are coming out. Like, for example, I'm following Hand Me That Pencil on Instagram is creating a tarot deck of elders. I will definitely get that at some stage when it comes out. There's another creator on Instagram that I've been following who's making a deck called Her Tarot, black and white drawings. I'm really enjoying watching the process of that, so I'll probably support that deck at some point whenever it's finished, and it might not even be 2022 when those decks are finished. No pressure on those creators. I'm very much enjoying watching their process. But I'm going to try to lean into the decks that I've got rather than leaning into the shopping experience, if that makes sense. Shop your collection, isn't that what they say? And part of the process to help me do that is I'm getting some more shelving so that I don't have all my decks stuck in the back of my wardrobe, which is where a lot of these ones have been. The ones I haven't been using, they've been languishing. So, although this was out on display, and yet somehow I still didn't use it. Too much choice, yeah? Anyway, if you've stuck with me these 25 minutes, what are your thoughts? What are you horrified that I haven't used? What were you thinking that you definitely wouldn't get rid of, or would get rid of, or would love to have, or have and use all the time, or whatever your reaction is? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.